All right, Andy Broadway here with the Andy Broadway Show, and welcome to the show. And today I've got 2 and 3 guests. There's a third one over off in the corner. We'll bring him into the story later. But I've got Diamond Docs here, so introduce yourself.
My name's Paul Crowder.
Cool.
Mark Monroe.
Mark Monroe, and then
Morgan Sackett's over in the corner.
Morgan Sackett's over in the corner. We'll bring him into the story a little
Keep
later.
it down over there, please.
All right, cool. Just to have him go. He's reviewing contracts and doing the important legal stuff and behind
Don't
the
forget
scenes.
the checks.
Right? Exactly. So who's Diamond Docs to start with?
It's a company that Mark Monroe, Morgan Sackett, and myself started in 2006. We had worked on a film for Disney called Morning Light with the late Roy Disney. And we met Morgan during that process. And Mark and I had worked on a film before that, a couple of films actually, and we had also worked through TV for the last 5 or 6 years together, and we both had a TV background. And we decided that television is not where we wanted to be, that we wanted to make documentaries. We wanted to be able to tell great stories, tell them in a cinematic way, if possible, as much as possible, and get great messages and great stories across in the vein and in the way that we had made the 2 films that we had already worked on and with Disney.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit ahead of our time. We thought it was going to be the golden age had arrived of documentaries, and of course I think now we're in the golden age. At the time we thought it was really going to take off, and of course the economy collapsed shortly thereafter.
Sure.
It was tough to make films in this town, specifically documentaries, small budget documentaries. But I think now we're in that age of the golden age of documentaries. I mean, I think you see them on every distribution platform and being made in ways that are very cinematic and very engaging for an audience. So,
Oh yeah, totally. I love documentaries. I mean, getting into them, watching them, you're just like, and especially if it's written well and edited well, you're like in the story. You never feel like it's a film or a movie going. This is the way I feel about it. Like I'm really into it. So you guys have got some projects that you're known for. You guys got an Oscar, right? Or
I worked
2
on
or 3, right?
I worked on a film called
Right.
The Cove,
Cove,
which was
okay.
fortunate to win the Oscar, and,
Right.
and that was a thrill, and that was at the time when we were really trying to get into the documentary business in a big way, and it helped out. Obviously, we got a lot of calls after working on a film like that.
Something that an Oscar does, right?
Don't know
Makes that phone ring like crazy, right?
Absolutely.
True.
But, also any sort of adulation, any sort of success where the film gets that little extra,
Yes.
where it does get, or it resonates, in big ways. There are many films that don't necessarily pick up awards, but they resonate strongly with audiences. And,
Right.
We've been lucky to have had a very successful run with the films that we've been involved with that have had that resonance. And, out of the 26 films that are constantly growing that number, there's 20 of them are most people have seen or heard of in some fashion. So
that's phenomenal.
It's been pretty great.
So now, what roles do each one of you play? Obviously, we joked about Morgan, that's not here, but what role does Morgan play in the Diamond Docs?
Well, I've always said Morgan is kind of like the parent in the room, the adult in the room. He's a producer. He came up in the world of sitcoms and independent film, and he was a guy who was making a pilot every year for pilot season. He's a prolific producer in his own right in that field. And we made a documentary together, and he really enjoyed it. He likes the genre. Shortly after starting the company, he sent me a script and said, "Hey, read this. I think I'm going to do one more pilot." And it was the pilot for Parks and Rec. So he kind of took off there.
Sure, yeah.
He's been moonlighting with us ever since as a doc guy. And he keeps us straight in terms of budgets and lawyers and contracts and all the
Important
business.
guy.
Important guy for us.
Totally.
Absolutely.
He's our Brian Epstein.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. And then what role do you play?
Primarily, I work as a writer of these documentaries. I'm a director and a producer as well, and I edit occasionally.
Yes, he does.
I grab a few of his credits
Yes,
editing.
absolutely.
But I enjoy the story crafting, the writing aspect of these documentaries, and so that's really the role I fill. And then Paul is a director himself, a prolific director as well as editor, and that's when we came together. We had like the producing, the writing, and the editing, all the trades kind of under one roof. That was kind of the idea we had.
All right, so tell me about your one of your recent projects, which is one I'm really interested in. That's 8 days of the week, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about how that came about and what you guys did with that.
8 days a week, the touring years, the Beatles film was just, like when that comes into your lap, when that comes in your direction, it's it's a big deal and quite an honour to just even be considered for it.
Right.
Nigel Sinclair, who is the producer, lead producer on the film, he and I and Mark had worked together on various other films. The Who, Amazing Journey, the story of The Who, Last Play at Shea, Formula One, Life on the Limit. And we had a great working relationship. We'd also become good friends. I even play in a band with Nigel from time to time. He has a band and I get to play with him.
Right.
So when this film came along, because of also great films that they've done, No Direction Home, the Bob Dylan film, the George Harrison documentary as well, both with Mike Scorsese. He has a great list of documentaries of his own that are very powerful and very strong. So he was brought in. He thought we'd make a good fit, and he had just been working with Ron Howard, and he thought Ron Howard would be a good fit.
Yeah.
So we all got together and we decided, we can make this work.
Wow.
But that said,
Yeah.
walking into a project that you're basically partnering with the Beatles,
Yeah.
with Apple, and you're partnering with Imagine and Ron Howard.
Yeah.
It's pretty frightening in a way. There's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure. You know, the world knows the story of the Beatles, or at least a lot of the facts of their career, their journey,
Yeah.
and so you're dealing with a story that people know, and you're dealing with heavyweights in the entertainment industry, and you want to get it right, and it couldn't have turned out better in terms of not just the product, but the working relationship was fantastic, and really I was trepidatious about trying to tell the Beatles story and knowing that they would be, our partners and also watching. But they're also great safety nets. You know, they're also great. It's a great way to work with someone and have them say, that's how it happened, just like that. And
Wow.
it feels it feels good when you can craft a story, try to craft a story and show it to the people who lived it, and they think that's true, that's honest. And I think that's all whether it's a big doc or a small doc, whether it features the Beatles or people you've never heard of, I think that's always a good test of how well you've done. When the people who are inhabiting the story can watch the film you've made and say, you got it right. So,
wow. Yeah, there's a difference between making a movie and making a documentary. Movie, people can embellish the truth.
Yeah.
But a documentary, you've got to have the facts accurate.
Yeah.
And people knowing that, especially with the Beatles, everyone knows every bit of part of their life, right? And can count the hairs in some cases on their head, right? But and the times of things happening. So for someone to say, you got that right.
Yes,
Kudos
I mean,
for you.
if I bet if you were to take a full aficionado, like our one of our great research guys, Eric Taros, he could point out where the flaws are, where the photograph that photograph was 4 weeks too soon, or those kind of things.
Wow.
That's the wrong.
Wow.
That's the wrong microphone. There wasn't that gig because they didn't use those microphones at that gig.
my gosh.
They have that kind of fabulous detail, and so but. Even Eric is a big fan of the film, regardless of those small little things.
Exactly.
We're telling a story. We got photographs of them in the studio. It was in October '64, but it wasn't maybe 8 days a week that they were recording, but it was then.
Sure.
So you use a little artistic license to make sure you can tell the story as best you can.
I think this is the magic of documentaries. This is why I love documentaries so much. Is that again, it doesn't matter really the subject matter. You're dealing in an art form that is, you're manipulating the tools that you have at your fingertips, whether it's archive footage, old footage, new interviews, pictures, stuff that you film, to tell a really big story. Now, the Beatles, they lived a full life, and we all know it, by heart, or at least some of us do.
Yeah.
To fit that into 90 minutes of entertainment, so that you're making sure you're entertaining people and they're going on this roller coaster ride of emotions, and yet also feel like it's right.
Yeah.
That's the puzzle, right?
Totally.
And that's what's difficult to do. And that's hats off to Paul in terms of that's what editors do in a big way, is make something that happened even feel more real than it was, bigger than it was, in a way, is making these moments, as you said. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a phrase that a guy called Andy Shear said to me once, that we're in the moment business, and you are about recreating moments. Every part of a movie. Let me say that again. Every part of a movie is a moment. They're emotional moments, and you want to be able to convey that emotion in the best way possible and enhance it and share it so people get that emotion. You know, that's when it's great, when you're sitting watching a film and you do tear up, you laugh, whatever you do. You know, you're able to create that emotion for your audience. That's, you know, one of the most satisfying things about what we do, I think.
So I'm always curious, and hopefully you can answer my question without giving like the secret life recipe of making documentaries, but how many ups and emotional up and downs, what is the formula in 90 minutes? Like, how many do you go up and down with to make it great?
You know, I think every story is different, but I do. It is funny. I
There's
do
a
think.
recipe.
I do
know
think
there's
in
a
those
recipe,
terms.
yeah.
I think you know, the pace of the movie and the style of the movie.
Right.
You know, it can change from film to film, and we like to think of these films, you know, like in the genres of narrative films. So, you know, The Cove. We, you know, when I was working on it, and the team that was working on it, we always looked at it as a noir, you know, espionage, spy thriller, like, and needed to have those kind of, that roller coaster feeling. But I do feel like every movie can only hold so many kind of beats, and they need to go up and down. And there is a little bit of a, you know, figuring it out on paper first. It's never quite right. It never ends up quite that way. But I always feel it's good to lay it out on paper and think of a specific number of beats that you're going to try to achieve, going up and down on that emotional roller coaster.
So in other words, it's like the KFC chicken recipe. You're not going to tell me what it is. I got it.
I think it's different. I mean, basically,
I know what you're talking about.
No, each film tells you where it wants to go.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're sitting back and watching it, and you've thought of it in this way, and you thought, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then you sit back and you take a step back for a second, and you watch it, and you think, you know what, we're lacking. We need this other emotion needs to happen here, and then you find out that that's where that should be.
Yeah.
And you may have that, but it's over here, and it should be this one should be sooner.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily a recipe.
Yeah.
You know, but it's where they naturally fall in place.
Yeah.
The recipe includes, because it is so much trial and error. Almost every film that we're a part of, we try to have test screenings. And I know this is a big business within the narrative world, within the Hollywood world.
Yeah.
But I think it's far more valuable in the documentary world. In the narrative world, you're following a script. Someone has written a script. They've shot the scenes. The actors have done the scenes. Unless you go reshoot scenes, you have a limited kind of account of material to make the film with. In the documentary world, you can make a whole film, wake up one day and go, it's wrong, and start over and recreate the world all over anew. And so test screenings for documentaries, I think, are vital to figure out if the things that you're trying to communicate to an audience, whether it's emotions or information, if they're getting across, if they see it the way you intended them to see it. And you can only tell that by sitting in front of 50 people and seeing if they laugh, if they cry, if they move, if they fidget. That's the only way to tell.
Yeah. So there's a science behind that, and I imagine that there's either you've got cameras on the audience that's watching it, or that you're watching.
We're in the room.
Oh, you're in the room. Oh, so you're just in the room. So like sitting in the same row with somebody. Or
Watching
whatever.
shoulders.
Yeah, you basically if you can sit at the back of the theatre and watch the audience, you know, especially, and you find the moments like they're all fidgeted at that moment. You notice everybody shifted, or 90 or 50% of them.
You're watching physiology.
Yeah, there's that. Well, there's that side of it. It's like, okay, they didn't laugh at the laugh. What happened?
Yeah.
We got to set the laugh up better. Is it funny?
Right.
You know, those sort of things. So you get all those little moments, and that can go audience to audience. You can sit the film in front of 50 people, and that's dead. You can sit the film in front of a different 50 people, and they're laughing their heads off.
Wow.
You know, so it can depend on the mood walking in and everything. So you have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they didn't laugh, but give it a chance. They didn't laugh a lot through the film.
Yeah.
So know that it was a bit of a downplay film, but let's keep with those ideas and let's see how it plays next time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a recipe; it's a process.
Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. So I sort of got my answer. Yeah. But it's good. Okay. Good. Because I'm just curious. I'm always curious because when you're watching a film like that, you're wondering. Because I'm almost I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I know where this is going because I can feel it, right? but then there's a twist, and I love the twist because you can predict some things but not others.
Right.
So really cool. It's great. That's great that you guys are in that business. So tell me about the other project you had. You had another one called Before the Flood. Tell me
Before the
about that
Flood, yeah, is a film. We made a film, the first film we made together called Once in a Lifetime, about the New York Cosmos Soccer Club. This is 10 years ago. Hysterical film. One of my favorite films I've ever worked on.
I haven't seen it when I was a good.
Yeah.
Very funny film.
Okay.
The producer who brought it to us, one of the producers was Fisher Stevens. He and I, he would call me again to work on The Cove, and I've had a great run with Fisher, and we've worked on several films with Fisher since then. He called me more than a year ago now because he had talked with Leonardo DiCaprio about making something about climate change, and I think this is the thing that not a lot of people realize or recognize is that Leonardo has, since basically 18, since he was adult, he's both been a star, but he's also been an incredible warrior in terms of climate change and the environment.
Right.
And he is a guy that has a kind of a pulse on the information that is coming out from scientists, from policymakers at all times. It's something that burns kind of deeply inside him. And he wanted desperately to tell a story about the state of the world we're in right now. And so I was, grateful and honored that Fisher included me, and we set off on a great journey. Leo was about to be honored by the United Nations as a messenger of peace for climate change, so we knew that was a great frame for the film.
Yeah.
We didn't know whether or not he'd allow us to kind of be in his hip pocket, but he did. And so for a year, while he was making The Revenant, he was also traipsing around the world trying to witness climate change and the effects of climate change on people, whether it's in Beijing or tiny island nations, or the politics in New York and Paris. So that's the film. It was a road trip basically, and it was a kind of a warning call about where we are and where we're headed. And we found great partners with National Geographic, who wanted it out, big. They released it in the weeks before the election, and then gave it away for free on all the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook. Anywhere you could watch it, you could watch it for free. They didn't care. And as a result, we've had, I clocked it just the other day, around the world, more than 60 million independent views.
Wow.
Before the Flood.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
When you work with
That's an amazing reach.
a big star, the A-list star of our generation, and
Exactly.
and a big company like National Geographic with its reach, you can actually, hopefully have some impact.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. And
So
we need to act on it.
So what is it like working together?
It's awful. I can't stand it. Just to be this close to it is driving me
There's
batty.
that little tidbit that I was looking for earlier. The
actually-
recipe, right?
Yeah, we're actually green screen. We're in different places.
Okay, yeah.
Can't be the same.
No, it's good, and we've been working together so long. It's hard to be objective about how it is, but there are you mentioned a recipe earlier. There are tricks in up the sleeve, and there are kind of shorthand ways of now it's like texting and emailing, shorthand ways of communicating where we kind of know what we're trying to do, and specifically in certain sections of the film. What if we did this?
Oh.
And so we used to spend a lot of time holed up in an edit bay until 3 or 4 in the morning, hammering away at it and discussing and debating. And now, we spend a lot more time in our own areas of town hashing it out on texts and emails.
Yeah.
But the dialogue is still the same. It is an editor genre. I've always believed that, and what I try to do is work on paper ahead of the editor and free up great editors like Paul to be able to focus on those moments and make those moments big, so I can look at the big picture and see how maybe it will fit in the overall roller coaster ride, and he can make the top of the roller coaster really frightening and the bottom really full of anticipation. He can do the things that great editors do.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how I'm able to edit in the fashion that I edit, because I don't have to worry about where the story's going at this particular moment. You know, when we're sitting back and we're looking at the whole thing, it's a different
Yeah.
story. But when I'm in this moment, I don't have to worry too much about what's happening later. I can just do, as he said, just concentrate on that moment because I know it's got the film's back
Yeah.
as far as the story arc and the story control.
Yeah.
And then we can, you know, we have the conversations about, you know, it might be better because we're doing this there that he doesn't say this here and he says that later, or, you know, this other person says that. Whatever those things might be is later on, but getting the emotion, getting the anticipation. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a really wonderful, relaxing world to be in as an editor because, you know, so many times you're just the editor, you know, and
Yeah.
there's nobody else, there's no support, and
Sure.
then you have so much to worry about. It's hard to really make things sing and dance on the screen as much as you want to because you really got to get through everything and get it laid out.
Yeah.
So having that taken care of and knowing that's taken care of, you know,
Yeah. So when you edit, what are you editing on?
I edit on Avid.
Avid, okay.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
always
cool.
done Avid.
When
Avid is
possible.
Huh?
When possible.
When possible. I've had to do a couple of others.
Is there an up and down relationship with Avid? It sounds like
It's
there
a
may be.
fantastic relationship with
Okay,
Avid.
okay.
No. When you say when possible, is, you know, a couple of projects came our way. Last Play at Shea it showed up as a Final Cut Pro thing, so
Oh,
I had
okay.
to learn Final Cut Pro.
Got it, okay.
And I was relieved to get back to Avid.
I imagine there was some cuss words associated with the
there
other.
could have been, yes, during the process. But there's always see.
Yes.
When I started out, I was on a linear system, and,
Okay.
I came into it. I didn't go to film school. I didn't think to myself, "Oh, I'm going to be an editor." I was in a band. I was a rock and roll musician, and I had a family. I couldn't get in the back of a van for $50 a night anymore. I had to find something better to do.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine suggested, a great friend of mine, Michael Shavloff, who is a great producer himself, suggested, "Hey, I think you'd make a great editor. You should come work for me. I'll put you in, you learn the machine." And so I took that opportunity and I went in and learnt it. But immediately as I got in there, within like 6 or 7 months, the Avid, this company bought one. It'd been out for a while,
Yeah.
but this company bought one and it was starting to become the go-to thing, the non-linear versus linear.
Yeah.
And I was already Mac savvy, so I jumped at it, and within a month or two, I was editing network television.
Wow.
I
Right there on
was
Avid.
right in
Yeah.
because of Avid. I was
Yeah.
given the chance. I was teaching all these guys, and when they needed one more, they just said stick Paul on it. I did it, and that's how I made the jump. And Stacey Peralta's editing down the road, or down the hallway, on another show for the same company. So that's how I met Stacey, and then we ended up doing Dogtown and Z-Boys together.
Oh, cool.
So Avid for me is the reason I'm an editor and the reason I've been so successful. So
Yeah.
I'm extremely loyal, and it's the best. You know, it's like the Porsche of
Yeah.
of the.
In a weird way, Avid is the reason that I'm a writer as well.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like Avid could be a potential sponsor of the show. I don't know.
Shit,
It sounds like we're talking
this
about
is
so
great.
much.
Actually, this is a great story of mine.
This is a
Yeah.
small story, but I was in news. I came up in news. I was working at CNN. This is in 1990, and I wanted to get in CNN. I wasn't quite there yet, and I started as an editor, linear editor as well. I'd learned it in college, and as I'm trying to get into CNN, the guy I was working for said, "Come with me, kid. I'm going to go join a new company, and it's going to take over the world."
Right.
I'm like, I'm supposed to be a journalist. I'm
Right.
a writer. I need to
Sure.
get into CNN.
Yeah.
He's like, just come check out the machine, and it was the first Avid.
Wow.
It was the demo Avid, and he's like, I'm
Yeah.
employee like number 7. You can be number 8.
Oh
Like,
my God.
I know.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
said, no. I'm a writer. I've got to be a writer. I
Yeah.
can't possibly.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, Avid
Yeah.
played a role in me coming out
Oh,
here.
that's
So,
cool. So as we wrap up the interview,
Yep.
tell the audience what's next. What do you got going on? I know we talked off camera. You've got about 10 to 12 different projects rolling around in your head. And I said to you, well, I hope they're not all in the same frame because that would be really confusing, right? But what's coming down the pike?
Well, Mark and I are working on a documentary about the development of artificial intelligence technologies with the director Chris Payne.
The guy with who killed the electric car,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
And the Revenge of Who Killed
yeah.
Electric.
Yeah, and so that's a very interesting project and a very exciting project. You know, I'm quite looking forward to getting that finished and out to the public.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. And then Diamond Docs through Mark has a couple of other films.
This
big
is
ones.
Sundance season, and everyone is submitting and waiting to hear back. And I have my fingers crossed on multiple fronts. I have a few different films. I won't be too explicit, but they involve extinction. They involve sports. They involve. A lot of the subject matter that make juicy, great documentaries, and I think there'll be some big films next year.
That's great.
Yeah, check out Sundance because there's a couple in there that are going to knock your socks off.
Well, that's great.
Actually, which is quite exciting. And then, as a company, Diamond Docs is looking to expand and to break out from not just documentaries, sort of more of in a bigger sense, overlooking other projects and getting into other genres of network television maybe, but more like the on-demand,
streaming.
There's so many more platforms now for storytelling.
Right.
And so we've been talking and contemplating a bigger move to spread out, try and bring the Diamond Docs way of storytelling to other platforms that we're, a lot of us we're consuming our media on our phone.
Totally.
Whether it's streaming devices, and we're still going to see to movies in the theater too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'd like to get into all of it.
Yeah. So you want to add something to add another element to your business?
Yeah, I mean, the talents that Mark and I have, we love the genre that we're in. We love making documentaries, and that's definitely our forte. But we have aspirations and certainly ideas that are outside of documentaries that we think, we could make a good television series about this, or a dramatic series about that, or a dramatic film.
Oh, that's
so
great.
we have other things that like that. There's also a lot of commercial content these days comes through the documentary form. They tell little short stories.
Oh, okay.
So branch into that as well. Hopefully get into that kind of thing. So loads of other, all these other things that are now out there, all these other platforms.
Yeah.
We want to be able to be a little larger than just documentaries. But documentaries will always be our core and our base and our bread and butter. Well, hardly bread and butter in the doc world. But what we do.
Yeah. All right. So let us know, where can we find out more information about you guys?
Diamond Docs, you go to our Twitter account, at Diamond Docs. And then there's me, I'm on Twitter at Paul Crowder. Also, diamonddocs.net will be the website, which should be up and running very soon. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best way to find us. Or you might find me in a pub.
Okay, good. Is there a particular one?
Oh, no, anyway, I'm usually crawling from one to the other. Okay. Just go from anyone in Santa Monica, head west, head east, and check the curb. Okay. Do you leave little breadcrumbs around? Usually. Little piece of Avid. Little Avid keys, exactly.
All right, well, great. Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the time.
This has been fantastic.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.